listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast with Johnny Slopes
top 3 to 5 pick next year.
and Camilla.
For the value you could have gotten at Ryan at.
I almost had 5,000 yards, but no, you don't want me. What you're saying is Wayne Gallman is the definitely functions of running backs?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I guess you can put me down as a quote for saying that.
We now bring you to the Fifth Down.
What the fuck is up, you fantasy football freaks? I'm Johnny Slokes, and you can follow me on Twitter at Johnny Slokes, Slokes.
And you can find me, Steve Behlman, at Redraft Warrior. And you can find us on the Fifth Down.
Follow us on Twitter, the Fifth Down FF, because you're listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast. This will be episode 32, show 88. We'll be talking about Week 12 waiver pickups. Steve, can you believe it's already playoff time?
No.
Right around the corner, man.
Dude, I can't believe it. I really can't. I feel like we were still just talking about off-season stuff, and we're already talking about playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
Like, the season just flies by. I guess it's true, though. Once you're having fun, time just really flies.
That's true. It sure is, man. And every week it's something crazy. This week, this whole year has been, really nuts. Crazy amount of injuries this year.
Yeah, fantasy football playoffs right around the corner. Before we get balls deep in waiver talk, please, if you enjoy our show and you wish to support our show, show some love on iTunes. Subscribe to us, leave us a review. You can also find our show on Spreaker and Stitcher for you non-iPhone users. Tell me, Steve, let everyone know how you've been doing. It's been a while since you've been on this show.
I know. It has been a minute. Ever since I lost Zeke in most of my leagues, it's been like a downward spiral, man. It really has. And I own a lot of Cowboys, so you know how the Cowboys have been doing the last couple of weeks.
Not good.
Not good. Not good at all. But other than that, I'm still maintaining. Hopefully playoff bound in most of them. And that's all that matters, man. And then
you got to make the playoffs. You're the redraft warrior, right?
That's right, man. That's right. And our league's going pretty good. We got pretty good teams in the staff league.
Yes, we also got the late bloomer league, the Bukaki league.
That's right.
Yeah, you're doing well in all of them, man.
Yeah, not too bad. Things. You gotta make do, man. Lots of injuries. You gotta make do every week.
Yep.
That's why we're here.
Do you ever go on draftingsleepers.com?
I don't. I haven't gone on there.
Well, you should, and here's why. On draftingsleepers.com, you have other people that are just like you, who are fantasy addicts, just like you, and there's a wide variety of fantasy topics on there. It's also perfect for me because it allows me to have a more personalized chats with my audience. Don't ask me questions on Twitter. Ask them to me on draftingsleepers.com, and I'd be more than willing to give you detailed and informed answers on draftingsleepers.com. It's the new social network for fantasy sports. It's basically just a big Reddit of fantasy football.
Awesome. That sounds awesome, man.
Yeah. So
I love connecting with everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of great people on there.
Oh yeah.
Before we get jumping into any specific players, there's been some injuries this week.
News and notes.
What's the one that was the main one of note for you, Steve?
Honestly, Devonte Foreman. He was 2 touchdowns and then torn Achilles. And we own him in our dynasty league.
We do.
And man, I was like, I was so excited, and then I don't know, that one hurt for me.
Yeah, our spot's getting full in that league too.
Yeah, and Chris Thompson was another one because I own him in another dynasty league, and he's been unbelievable for the Redskins this year. And that's a killer. That's a killer for the whole team.
Devonta Foreman, with him tearing his Achilles, I think that pretty much gives Lamar Miller a stranglehold in that backfield. You're probably going to see a little bit more of Alfred Blue as the backup.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure Lamar Miller owners are feeling more secure about that injury. I mean, you don't want to celebrate any injury by any means, but if you're Lamar Miller, it looks a little bit better.
Right, but you also got to think, he was taking some little workload off him, which was helping him, I think, this year. And
that's why I said who knows? The season, right?
Right. Now who knows if he gets 25, 30 touches, is he going to last 2 weeks? So, I mean, if I'm a Miller owner, I'm definitely trying to grab Blue just to have him because he can step in there and, be a solid RB2 for you.
Yeah, he can slug his way to like 3.5 yards a carry and get
get in the end zone maybe and a few catches for 30 yards,
So, yeah, I mean, we kind of seen it a little bit last year where Lamar Miller was getting all these carries because no one else was there to steal any of his carries, and he was getting nicked up. So it's a good point.
That's right. Yep.
And with Chris Thompson, he fractured his fibula. Obviously, Rob Kelly's he's on IR. So it's pretty much just the Samaje Perine show over there.
It's pretty much the Samaje Perine show, and they're going to have to give him the ball. I mean, I think Byron Marshall is the only other running back on the roster.
Yeah, Ryan Matthews, right?
Yeah, right?
I can imagine I'm bringing someone.
They're going to have to sign somebody. They're going to have to sign somebody, I'm thinking. They're going to have to.
But what is this? What's the outlook going forward for Samaje Perine? Do you think he's like an RB2 due to volume?
I definitely think he's going to be an RB2. You could probably count on him for 60 yards, a fumble, and a touchdown.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of drives that are going to need to be finished in that Washington offense.
Yeah, their offense was looking, pretty great, man. And I mean, Chris Thompson's going to take a hit. That's going to hurt. And Pryor's been a bust all year, so.
Pryor actually is getting surgery on his ankle.
Yeah, now he's going to IR.
He might.
Ryan Grant is someone you can keep an eye on. Crowder's stepping back up. Never count on Reed.
Another guy that left with an injury was Kelvin Benjamin. You could see him limping off the field. It looked like to me he was grabbing the medial side of his knee. So maybe that could be like some kind of MCL injury.
I don't really know how bad it is. I
haven't heard anything.
Not really, no. But I'm guessing he's going to be done for at least a few weeks. So, Zay Jones owners probably pretty happy right now.
I mean, do you know if Jordan Matthews is due back?
I don't know. That's another one. I thought he was possibly going to be back last week, and he wasn't. So who knows?
And I think that's also a stock up for maybe a guy like Charles Clay. He's been struggling since he come back, dropping some passes. But, I mean, he's going to have to be more involved.
Sure. Now, who the hell knows what's going to happen at the quarterback?
I mean, they're still trying to stick to their guns. They're saying that there's a chance that Peterman could start, and it's like, why don't you guys just make yourselves not look stupid? Just
I know. All year long they've been doing moves like this, and it's just been it's terrible. Especially if you own Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah. I mean, he got over 20 points in just one half of football this past week.
I know.
Yeah. Robert Woods is another guy that suffered a shoulder injury. I don't exactly know when this injury happened, but apparently it's going to be a multi-week injury.
Yeah, he was seen in a sling, after the game. So, obviously I don't know how bad that is, but, at least a couple of weeks, I'm guessing. And, he's having an awesome season. Solid.
Yeah, he's been pretty stellar, and it was kind of surprising because for a while it's like, which receiver do we trust in this offense? And for a while we really didn't know, but then he just emerged, and now it's short-lived.
He's steady every week. You could count on him for at least 10 points, And now without him, Cooper Kupp's going to have to start catching those balls.
Yes, sir. Also, Jay Cutler, he left the game with a concussion. Enter in Matt Moore. I mean, what do you think this does? Who do you think this helps the most in that Miami offense?
I don't know if it's got to help the whole offense, I guess, as a whole. But individually, I don't really know who it helps out. Landry's been pretty decent. Parker's been not great. You know, he's
been
getting
all right when he's in there.
You're lucky. Yeah, I mean, he just, you know, I don't know. That the whole offense is, you know, you don't know who to count on at running back. You know, both had long plays, you know, now 2 weeks. So it's tough, man. I don't know. It's hard to trust anybody over there, to be honest.
All right, let's jump over to some quarterback streamers. Now,
All right.
if you're a Dak Prescott owner, are you considering?
That's me.
Are you considering not starting him this next week?
No, honestly, I'm starting him, and I'm going down with the ship. He has 4 pretty decent matchups, you know, coming up, and I'm hoping he can bounce back. I mean, that was a really bad game, the last game. So I'm sticking with him. I wouldn't mind if I had him to maybe pick somebody else up, you know, get rid of my wide receiver 5 or RB5 and pick somebody else up just to have. But I don't think I'm going to do it. I'm probably not going to roster another one. And I'll just, if he's really bad, I'll end up streaming. But I think he bounces back.
I think we should keep an eye on if Tyrone Smith is going to be back for them or not.
Yeah, they sat him to hopefully have him for Thanksgiving. So, you know, if he's back for Thanksgiving, I'll feel much better. If he's not, then I wouldn't be opposed to sitting him and streaming like Flacco versus the Texans or something like that.
Let's just say you have to stream somebody this week. Is there a one quarterback that jumps out to you that you think that would be a good start this week?
I mean, I did see the Flacco matchup. That kind of jumped out at me. Fitzpatrick, you know, he always is you know, I'd always stream him. Gabbert, Case Keenum, if he's still out there, if he still has his job, which I don't think they're going to get rid of him right away. So, you know, those are some.
What about Andy Dalton? He's 52% owned on Yahoo leagues. He does play Cleveland. Cleveland, they're giving up the 11th most fantasy points per week to the quarterback position.
Yeah.
With 18 points. They're actually tied with Tampa Bay. And Andy Dalton, I don't know if people know this about Andy Dalton. He's actually gotten 20 or more fantasy points in 3 of the past 4 games and hasn't thrown an interception in that span.
Yeah, I mean, I got him on the list. He's 5th on the list, and I put a little question mark after him because I'm like, I don't know. You know, he's towards the end, but definitely on the radar. And you know.
And if we're looking just a little bit further down the list, how do you feel about Eli Manning going on the road against Washington?
I don't think I could do it.
I mean,
I don't know if I could do it.
On paper, it looks like a good matchup.
Yeah, it does.
There's a big but.
But I don't know if I could do it.
Is Sterling Shepard going to be back? Like migraines is a tricky thing. I didn't even know he had that kind of an issue.
I know. Migraines migraines are scary, man, because you know, 1 minute you could be all right, and the next minute you could be done, and you know that hurts your fantasy roster, man. If he's just out after the first quarter, the migraine.
Not having Sterling Shepard is a big deal too.
Yeah, you know. Last week was the first week I was counting on Evan Ingram to get me at least 10 points, and he didn't do nothing. Another guy is
I'm saying Eli Manning. Just real fast.
Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind if you're considering Eli Manning, he has only went over 20 fantasy points once since week 4. But Washington has given up 25 or more fantasy points the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, on paper, you could probably – I think his ceiling's probably 15, you know. So, I mean, if you're stuck, worth a shot.
You got anyone else that you're thinking about?
Yeah, Mitchell Trubisky, you know, if they're going to let him run, you know, if he's going to have 5 runs at 40 to 50 yards every week, I mean, that's 5 points. And if you're in like a 4-point or, you know, if you're getting points for on the ground and he can run a score in, you know, he's been pretty efficient, you know. So, I mean, he's another one, you know, down the stretch.
I've been starting him in 2 quarterback leagues.
His schedule looks good, especially after week 12. I think they got Philadelphia next week, and after that, I think it's pretty smooth sailing. So he's another one you could probably end up streaming.
Yeah, I mean, his attempts are starting to go up. There was a point in time where they were only throwing the ball 20, 25 times. Now that's up towards like 35 times.
Right.
It's a little bit more manageable.
Yep. Steadily rising.
With the rushing ability, because if I'm streaming a quarterback, I'm looking for a quarterback that can add a little bit with his legs.
Sure, definitely, man. I always love that. You know?
I know that we don't know if Tyrod Taylor is going to play next week. I bet they're going to end up naming him the starter. They're going on the road against Kansas City. Tyrod Taylor's 40% owned.
I would stream him.
Here's what Tyrod Taylor he's gotten 31.9. Then he had that awful game against the Saints. In this past week, like we said, he got over 20 fantasy points in one half of football.
Right.
And the thing I noticed about Kansas City is Kansas City's only faced 2 scrambling quarterbacks all year. That was Deshaun Watson in week 5, and that was Dak Prescott a couple of weeks ago. In both games, they gave up a ton of fantasy points to those scrambling quarterbacks. I think Deshaun Watson had 40 points, and Dak Prescott had over 30. So, I mean, maybe they're not a team that really deals with scrambling quarterbacks that well, too.
Yeah, so that's a good matchup.
Yeah. I noticed you mentioned Case Keenum. Do you like him on the road against Detroit? Detroit held Minnesota to 7 points while they're on the road earlier this season.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like if I still got him in my lineup, I'm probably going to keep rolling him out there. And like I said, I mean, he's got good weapons, you know. So like, if you got Thielen's been unbelievable, Diggs is good, Rudolph's there. You know, they've been pretty solid. Their running game has been pretty solid here and there. I don't know. He's definitely worth streaming, even against Detroit.
I do think Detroit has an underrated secondary. It's still not that great. Case Keenum, he's been over 20 fantasy points 2 of the past 3 games. So I think the one game where he wasn't over, he barely missed. It was this past week against the Rams. He had 19.2. So he's been barely productive the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I think another one that we're overlooking is Jacoby Brissett. He's going to stay at home, play the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans are giving up the 12th most fantasy points in the NFL.
Yep.
And Jacoby Brissett, he's been in over 20 fantasy points in 3 straight games. So I think that's
a good one.
Good option too.
That's a really good one. I kind of – that was off my radar. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking of him. Yeah, that's a good one.
Like you said, we got Fitz. He's going on the road against Atlanta. How much faith do you have in that?
I don't know. Atlanta's a little bit better than what we're giving them credit for.
It is the first time that these 2 teams are playing this year.
Yeah, so, I mean, it could go, you know, who knows? It could go any way. But, I mean, you know, he's got weapons too. And, you know, I mean, it's a crapshoot with all these guys. So, I mean, if you're streaming and you believe in these guys, man, go for it. I mean, he can get it done. He can throw 3 touchdowns, and he can throw for 250 yards. So,
yeah, and he kind of has that I don't give a fuck type of attitude where he'll ball to your best player.
That's right. So, I mean, just to have that, kind of nice.
Before we move on from quarterbacks, I just want to quickly mention that this is the second time that Cleveland and Cincinnati have played each other. A lot of times when 2 divisional teams play each other for a second time, the scores do tend to be a little bit lower the first time.
A little bit lower. Yep. I can see that.
Let's go over to the running back position. Can you believe that there's still that Buck Allen is still 55% owned in Yahoo leagues?
It's crazy, aren't they? You know, they made it known that Alex Collins and Woodhead is going to be their passing back. You know, yeah, I think you could drop Buck Allen.
Oh yeah, for sure. Same thing with Gilsley. Gilsley's still 37% owned.
Wow, yeah. I mean, that's been over since week 6.
And I think because of the game that Rex Burkhead had yesterday, that people may think about dropping him. What do you think about that?
They might if they're looking to pick like another quarterback up or something like that, and you know they're actually stacked there or whatever. I'll pick them up in a heartbeat because you know they're still gonna give him the ball. They're still gonna give him those touches. You know, him and Deion Lewis are like, you know, sure things. But then I could see in a couple weeks James White back up on the radar. So, you know, I'm sure James White is getting dropped all over the place.
Yep. I don't know if this is like a misprint or not, but Yahoo is saying that Samaje Perine is only 35% owned. If he is still out there in your guys' leagues, he's probably going to be the number 1 pickup this week.
He definitely will, and I know he's in a league. I know he's out there in a league I'm in because last week was the week where he should have been picked up and he wasn't. So then, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised he's that low owned.
Yeah, I know. After this week, he's going to be 80.
Yeah, probably. Like I said, there's gonna be a lot of drives that need finishing over there in Washington.
Yep, definitely got the opportunity.
How do you feel about Austin Eckler?
I don't mind him. I mean, he got some garbage points again, you know, this week for you. So like, if you had to start him, you got some points out of him. But I mean, just to have him behind Melvin Gordon, you know, he has he might get some opportunity there. So I wouldn't count on him week in, week out for points. But as you know, as a bench ad, definitely.
I would definitely want to have him maybe if I am a Melvin Gordon owner.
Yeah, most definitely if you're a Gordon owner, and I wouldn't mind even having him if I'm not the Gordon owner, just to have an extra running back.
Marlon Mack coming off bye. Are you interested?
I don't know. I don't know how committed they are to him. So, but another one that you can stash, you know, and hope for the best.
All right, I'm gonna throw out a few players that are sub 10% owned in Yahoo leagues. I just want to get your opinion on some of these guys.
Okay.
Corey Clement,
he's on my list. I think he's a good ad. He's still going to get in the mix. You know, I really thought Philadelphia was going to have Ajayi, you know, kind of take over. I still thought Blount was going to be involved, but now, you know, they're getting Corey Clement involved. Kenyon Barner scored a touchdown. I mean, it's a little messy over there, but to add Corey Clement, yeah.
Like it was a blowout, so I could understand a lot of like the backups getting work. But Corey Clement, he has 7 touchdowns on the season. Like,
yeah, wild, right?
He's been getting in a lot of the work in the red zone.
Yeah, so definitely a decent ad. Absolutely.
Yeah. Devonte Booker, 7% owned.
Wow. I thought he'd be up there a little more.
Well, people see Denver and they're thinking, oh, that's a dumpster fire right now, you know?
Yeah, I know. But, you know, he did look good last week, and, you know, C.J. Anderson took a back seat, and Jamal Charles didn't do nothing. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Booker keeps playing the way he's doing. Yeah, it's great.
19 touches, 98 yards. He has to be owned at this point.
You know what a shit barometer is, Bob? Measures the shit pressure in the air. You can feel it. Listen, Bubs. Hear that? Sounds of the whispering winds of shit.
What the fuck are you going on about?
Can you hear it?
No, I don't hear anything.
Oh, but you will, my sorry little friend, when the old shit barometer rises, and you'll feel it, too. Your ears will implode from the shit pressure. You were warned, Bubs. But you picked the wrong side. Beware, my friend. Shit winds are a-coming.
I apologize ahead of time, Fifth Downers. When we recorded this podcast last night, I was editing the podcast, and I realized as soon as we mentioned Devonte Booker, it cut off, and all of our takes were gone after that. And unfortunately, I'm doing it solo for right now. We're just gonna cover up. We're pretty much done with the running backs. We're gonna cover the wide receivers, tight ends, and the defense. And then we'll get the show out for you guys. Once again, I apologize. Now, before we got cut off, we were talking about Devonte Booker. He's 7% owned. Dude had 19 touches this past week, 14 carries, 44 yards, caught a number of passes. It does seem like at this point of the season, any back that's getting work between the tackles and catching the ball could definitely help your team. So he's definitely a pretty good add, especially C.J. Anderson owners. If you're looking for some help, or if you're looking for some help at the running back position, I think Devonte Booker is a pretty good add. One other guy before we move over to the wide receivers, Elijah McGuire. I know he's coming off bye. He had 52% of the snaps. Not quite sure if Matt Forte is going to return. I really don't think that's going to happen. I still think he's going to be out. So Elijah McGuire is a nice lad. He actually outsnapped Bilal Powell, so that's good. Let's go over to the wide receivers. I know earlier in the show we were talking about how Robert Woods could be out for a couple of weeks. And Cooper Kupp, he may or may not be available in your league. He's 51% owned in Yahoo leagues. And the thing about Cooper Kupp is when Robert Woods was in the lineup, it seemed like Cooper Kupp was one of those guys that had like a lower floor, not a very good ceiling. I think his floor is about 8 to 10 points, but his ceiling wasn't really much higher than that. He had 7 targets the past 2 weeks. It does seem like, though, Robert Woods is going to be out for a couple of weeks, so maybe Cooper Kupp gets a little bit more volume. I also, though, Sammy Watkins owners are probably happy. I think that opens up some targets for him, but Cooper Kupp, I think, is going to be the wide receiver to own in L.A. while Robert Woods is out. Another guy that's only 50% owned in Yahoo leagues that may or not be out there, Corey Davis, 22 targets the past 3 games. He's a guy that's been kind of moving a little bit slower as he come back from injury. He's getting the targets. You're still not really seeing the production yet, but as long as he's still getting targeted like he's the number 1 receiver over there, then I think that the production will eventually come. So I definitely think Corey Davis is definitely worth the bench spot, more like a wide receiver 4. Another one, as long as Chris Hogan's out, I kind of like Danny Amendola. You don't really necessarily know where the ball's always going over there in New England. They're not really the type of team that just replaces one receiver with another receiver. They'll replace that receiver with a completely new game plan. They'll just kind of try to game plan around it. So that's one issue with Danny Amendola. He will be inconsistent from week to week, but I think he has to be owned while Chris Hogan's out at least. I think a hot pickup this week will be Kenny Stills. He's 38% owned in Yahoo leagues. In PPR leagues, he's wide receiver 21. He wasn't really doing a whole lot when Jay Cutler was in. Once Jay Cutler got knocked out of the game is when he's seen all of his explosion. Matt Moore was getting him the ball. I think Kenny Stills is probably the guy that has he's probably the one that benefits the most from Jay Cutler's injury if Jay Cutler is unable to go. I know there's still Josh Gordon truthers out there. I think he's coming back week 13. I think he's still worth an end of the bench stash. But man, would you really want to trust that in your fantasy football playoffs? I know I wouldn't. I'd much rather have like a Josh Doxson, or give me Corey Coleman instead. I like Corey Coleman more than Josh Gordon. Sorry. I mean, those are two other names that are on this list. Corey Coleman's 32% owned. He had 11 targets this past week. He's being treated like he was the number one receiver. So I definitely like Corey Coleman. If he's out there, he's probably up there as one of the top ads this week as well. D.D. Westbrook, 31% owned. He had an up and down game. I mean, he had 6 targets. He didn't do a whole lot with them. He did make a nice catch on the sideline that was ruled not a catch. He also fumbled the ball. So, I mean, there's that too. So, once again, this is debut. We'll see how he gets going. I think if you want to add him as like another bench stash, I think that's fine. Because I've always liked Josh Doxson. He's 28% owned. Josh Doxson seems to really be filling out that Deshaun Jackson role of that offense. But he's had a career day, 81 yards, most he's had in his career so far. So that's nice to see. For desperate people, Mike Williams, 25% owned. He scored a touchdown back-to-back weeks. And he does have a nice little matchup coming up this next week. So I think definitely if you're really in desperation mode and you absolutely need like a deep flex, you could throw in Mike Wallace. Just a few more before we go on to tight ends. There's some sub 10% guys that I want to mention. Kenny Galladay. He seems like he's just more of a splash player at this point. I mean, they were getting him involved a little bit in limited snaps, but he's just not seeing enough work. I know with the injury to Kelvin Benjamin, we don't know how serious that is up till now. We're not sure if Jordan Matthews is going to be back. Some people are asking about Zay Jones. He's 7% owned. I mean, I guess Buffalo does have to throw the ball to someone. But Buffalo is a run-heavy offense. The production is not going to be there on a consistent basis. Bruce Ellington, as long as Will Fuller's out, I think that he's an underrated PPR asset. He had he was like 6 for 60 this past weekend. So you'll take those PPR points where you can get them. Another couple guys I just want to throw out there. Ryan Grant. He looks like he'll be playing in 3 receiver sets. I've been having my eye on Mike Williams. It does look like he's took over that number 2 role for the Chargers. He had 8 targets this past weekend. He didn't do a whole lot with them, but I think that's a player that could make some noise down the stretch. Let's go over. I'm going to talk about the tight ends. Just real fast. ASJ, if he was dropped, it's still. I know he's dropped. It looks pretty out there in the waiver wire. He does play Carolina. That's a tough matchup. I think I'd rather go for a guy like Tyler Kroft. I don't know if Tyler Kroft was hurt or not. I heard something about him getting hurt, but he had a touchdown this past week. He gets to play Cleveland, so if he's good to go and he's playing Cleveland, I like that matchup. Last time these two teams met, Kroft destroyed him. 6 catches, 68 yards, 2 touchdowns. So Cleveland doesn't like to cover the tight end, so that's a no-brainer. As we mentioned a few times, Charles Clay is going to have to step up because they really don't have any options over there in Buffalo. He really hasn't been too great since he come back. He's been suffering a lot of drops. I know he had that touchdown drop this past weekend. He had a couple of drops the other 2 weeks ago, so he definitely needs to step his game up. I mean, there's really not a whole lot out there for tight ends. I mean, you got Eric Ebron, Julius Thomas, Mercedes Lewis. I mean, you got O.J. Howard out there. I think that maybe if you're desperate, you could pick him up, but there's really not a whole lot out there for tight ends. Some of the defenses that I do like going into this week, you got New England at 58%, so they might not be available, but their defense has been playing a lot better lately. They play Miami at home. We know how bad Miami's offense is. I think that New England would be a good – that's definitely in play. You got Carolina. They're going to be on the road against the Jets, but Carolina, they're a team that's coming off bye. They're 55% owned still, but so they might not be there. But if they're out there, I think that's a good play, especially not only for this week, but just for season long. For the rest of they're past their bye. Like it's good. Cincinnati, 41% owned. They stay at home. They're playing Cleveland. You know, typically when two teams meet for a second time in the season, the score tends to be a little bit lower. They already seen each other. They're gonna what you seen the first time they're going to try to game plan for that, and it's gonna be a completely different game. So I definitely think this could be a lower scoring game that Cincinnati will be able to take advantage of, especially with Kaiser. If Kaiser's the quarterback, like, he's terrible. Some underrated defenses going into this week, I think, is Atlanta 17% home. They're staying home against Tampa Bay. We know Fitzpatrick. He's a guy that likes to fit balls in the tight windows. There's a chance that he could score like 3 or 4 touchdowns, but there's also a chance he could throw like 3 or 4 interceptions. You really don't know what the fuck you're getting. So I think Atlanta's a solid play. They've shown that they're able to get pressure on the quarterback, and they're playing at home. Another one is the Washington Redskins. They're only 7% owned, so we're getting real dirty here. But they're at home. They're playing the Giants. So the Giants. We know how the Giants have been playing. They got their second win of the season. It didn't look pretty, but it's a dirty play because you really don't feel too confident about the Washington defense, especially because of how banged up they are. I mean, if you're in like a, I don't know, we're talking like 16-team league at this point. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I think that's really pretty much what got cut off this last day. Once again, Fifth Downers, I really apologize for that. We will be doing a little bit something a little bit different this week. We'll be doing a little bit of like start and sit, and we'll also be talking a little bit about like what's going on going forward for the playoffs. So definitely tune in for that. That should be out like Thursday by the latest. So please tune in for that. Fifth Downers, this is Johnny Slokes signing out. Have a nice day.